Today, you essentially added, if not wanting to be blown up or rammed by a car by a radical Islamist in the United States of America makes us Islamophobes, then so be it. Are you saying that anyone who is Muslim is a threat to this country?
Well, this discourse and debate is getting ugly real quick. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet culture, and more. We're going to check out a clash that is going viral between a CNN anchor and a MAGA Republican Congresswoman, Nancy Mace, after she put out some pretty charged, pretty extreme, pretty absolutist anti-Muslim tweets that went viral over the weekend. The CNN anchor then challenged her on this, and they had quite the exchange, which we're going to break down. Here's the headline from Mediaite. CNN anchor slaps Nancy Mace with First Amendment rebuke in wild on-air clash over anti-Muslim tweets. CNN anchor Omar Jimenez confronted Representative Nancy Mace, Republican from South Carolina, over the First Amendment during a tense live interview on Sunday after the Congresswoman declared that Muslim public officials were a, quote, Trojan horse and, quote, threat to the United States. The tense exchange came after Mace took to X on Friday, days after Abdul El Sayed, a Muslim, won the Democratic senatorial primary in Michigan. So here is Nancy Mace's tweet that went viral and has more than 9 million views. She wrote, quote, every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. We refuse to be silent. So I thought this tweet was disgusting. And the reason I thought that was not because I am a fan of the beliefs of the Islamic faith or many Muslim tenets of their faith either. I am tenets, that is. I am not. I'm actually quite critical of them. And I have always defended people's right to reject a faith or criticize a faith broadly. But what I can't stand, what I find so deplorable about this, is the way that it collectively demonizes a huge group of people and casts aside individuals based on assumptions about a group. It is an extremely unhinged, broad statement. You can have concerns about the things that many Muslims believe or things you read in the Quran. The same way I have very many concerns about things that some Christians believe or that you might read in parts of the Bible. Although I will say, I think that these disturbing beliefs are more prevalent in the Islamic faith worldwide than in the Christian faith, but doesn't mean any particular Christian is at all bad or believes anything crazy. And it doesn't mean that any particular Muslim person is a bad person or somehow a threat, or for all you know, their particular beliefs might not be at all radical or dangerous. And so every person should be evaluated as an individual, and to broadly declare an entire religious group, which have all sorts of different beliefs inside that group, and they vastly disagree with each other. And there are some Muslims who have more socially progressive views or more liberal views on social issues than a lot of Christians. To declare them all somehow dangerous and evil as a category is discriminatory and is collectivist. It is anti-individualist. It is anti-constitutionalist as well. It is blatantly against both the spirit of the First Amendment, but also the provision of the Constitution that explicitly bars religious tests for office. Reading here from Article 6, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, quote, the senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers shall be bound by oath and or affirmation to support this Constitution, quote, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. You can't get more explicit than that. Yet she's claiming Muslim people are unfit to serve as public officials. That is directly against our Constitution and our values. And so the other thing I'll say is, like, are you sure about this? So are you saying that Muslim people who are appointed to the Trump administration, Dr. Oz comes to mind. For example, he was appointed to a high-level position in HHS under Trump, and he has long identified himself as somebody who is Muslim. Are you saying he's somehow a danger? He's unfit? That Trump, who you love and suck up to all the time, Nancy Mace, is appointing, dangerous extremists to the highest levels of government? I think that's not the case. And that's another example of why, even if some groups may hold beliefs broadly that we find extreme in different ways, any individual should be evaluated as an individual. Crazy thought that, when Republicans for years said they believed in individualism and not collectivism, when they believed in religious liberty, that also included Muslims. Now, none of this is to say we have to just pretend every Muslim belief is fine and dandy and that all these other countries are just, equal and different cultures. We don't have to do any of that. We can be critical and honest about any religion and belief without castigating and writing off entire groups of 1 billion people based on a collective demonization. This is a nuance that shouldn't be that difficult, but it totally escapes Nancy Mace, because when she received scrutiny for this on Twitter, she replied by saying, "If not wanting to be blown up, stabbed, or rammed by a car by a radical Islamist in the United States of America makes us Islamophobes, then so be it." What? No one said that. Nobody wants to be stabbed or blown up or rammed by a car. And she's doing what's called a Mott and Bailey, where you make an extreme statement, then when you get scrutiny for it, you retreat to a more defensible statement. For example, in her original tweet, she said all Muslims are a threat if they're in any position of public trust or authority. And in her later tweet, she's like, it's not Islamophobic for me to be concerned about radical Islamists who want to kill me. Okay, that's like a totally different sentence. That's not at all the same thing. Of course, it's not Islamophobic to not want radical Islamists to be allowed into our country to hurt people. But that's different from saying that all people who ascribe to a faith with this super broad brush are all dangerous and evil, which is what her original tweet said. So no, that's gaslighting. And she was held accountable for it by this CNN host who, if anything, I thought was too meek. Anyway, we're going to watch that clip now where Omar Jimenez tries to push back on some of this stuff, and she responds. Let's watch.
So before we go, I want to ask you about something you posted online. A few days ago, you wrote, quote, "Every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic." And then today you essentially added, "If not wanting to be blown up, stabbed, or rammed by a car by a radical Islamist in the United States of America makes us Islamophobes, then so be it." Are you saying that anyone who is Muslim is a threat to this country?
That's not what I said. And that's not what I said. Number one, I think we do.
Excuse me? That's not what I said? Gaslight harder, Queen. You said any Muslim person in public office is a threat to America. So yeah, you're therefore saying all Muslim people are dangerous. Unless you're trying to walk and chew gum at the same time by saying that only the Muslim politicians are dangerous. But the only way that you could be certain that every single Muslim office holder is a Trojan horse and a threat is if all Muslims were. That's the only... What? Insane gaslighting and denial already. But okay, Nancy. She is so chill and so normal. That's one of the tragedy of Nancy Mace, is that when she entered Congress, she was this moderate, reasonable person, and she slowly descended into utter madness and insanity. I don't know why. Anyway, we'll keep going here.
We do have a real issue with radical
it sounds
Islamic
like that's what you're saying.
No, I was talking about elected officials. When you look at what has just happened.
So any Muslim elected officials, sorry to cut you off, but just to be clear, any elected Muslim officials.
Hamdani campaigned with an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. You have Abdul al-Sayed, who was campaigning with Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. Yes, we should be very concerned.
He said he regretted those comments, but I take your point.
No, so this isn't a good point. I mean, if you are categorically declaring all Muslim politicians to be a threat, citing 2 examples, and then explaining why you believe they are a threat doesn't prove that point at all. Because you're talking about a group of millions and millions of American Muslims. Billion, I believe, more than 1 billion worldwide. So yeah, you can't just say 2 examples that even if you take them at face value, which are both disputable, but like, sure, even if you take that at face value, you haven't proven your point at all. Like if I were to get on TV and say, and I would ever would, because I don't believe this and I don't talk like this, all Catholic priests are predators. And you say, wait, how can you say they're all predators? And then I start listing, well, this Catholic priest here was found guilty of this. And this one, I could list 50 examples and it still wouldn't prove the categorical statement. So it's just a nonsense. She's just, I don't know. It's astonishing how low the expectations for the quality and seriousness of person in public office have fallen in the United States of America. But here we are, I guess. Let's keep going.
Radical, but that believe in this radical Islam ideology where women are covered head to toe. It's very oppressive, where we've seen grooming gangs over in
But Congresswoman,
Europe,
there's no
rape
indication
girls.
that Mayor Mamdani has brought any of those ideals to New York City governance, or that just being Muslim allows you, brings those in.
If you're playing footsie with an imam here in America who's an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombings, yeah, we have a real problem with that kind of ideology.
But Congresswoman, when you make a blanket statement like that, it implies that every Muslim member of Congress or leadership, folks who, by the way, are elected by American citizens.
I am deeply concerned about Michigan Democrats nominating a guy hanging out with Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11, who has a framed photo of the Twin Towers.
Which he's responded to and says he regrets those comments. But yes, keep going.
Yeah, but I mean, this is who he's hanging out with, this kind of person who's promoting, you know, communist ideology.
That would be I mean, we could even discuss that. That is a reasonable reason to criticize Abdul El-Sayed, the candidate in Michigan. It is not a good reason to categorically declare all Muslims unfit for office. I don't understand how this is lost on her. This isn't a difficult concept any more than to say like, oh, here's a horrendous black person who's done terrible things, therefore black people are unfit for office. No, people are individuals. I don't know. I hope that she gets whatever she's going for. She failed hilariously in the South Carolina gubernatorial race. Even she begged and begged for Daddy Trump to pick her and endorse her, and then he didn't. And now I think she's losing her seat in Congress. It's like, I don't know. It's just depressing to see somebody who was, again, at the start of her career in Congress, nuanced and bipartisan and moderate and reasonable, just grasp and flail and descend into madness. And also, I think she's so clearly addicted to attention that she's just trolling at this point. I think she's just saying shit like this because she knows it'll go viral, it'll get pushback, and she wants any attention at all costs. And I'm sorry, it's like, ma'am, go become an influencer then. Like you should not be a politician or an elected official and just rage baiting constantly. Crazy take, I know. Call me a Karen, call me, I don't know, whatever you want, but I find this to be contemptible. Anyway, we'll watch the rest of this clip here.
This is not something, America's not built on those values. And in the future, when our granddaughters are wearing burqas to school, we're going to look back and say,
there's no indication that is happening on a wide basis. Folks that are getting into office.
Did you see the parade in Chicago today? Have you seen Dearborn? In Dearborn, Michigan.
An expression of culture, Congresswoman, is different than a blanket city policy.
The guy complaining about the call to prayer 5 times a day, they're trying to push these people out and our values out, and that's wrong. I think this is a conversation that we have to have. What are our values and what do they look like? I don't want to hear the call to prayer 5 times a day in an American city. I think
if you don't want to hear it, that's okay. The First Amendment protects from freedom of religion.
Well, that's true. And once again, it is unfortunate that in her unseriousness, Nancy Mace is conflating reasonable concerns or questions with the unreasonable blanket demonization of an entire demographic group of people, an entire faith. Because, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't allow a call to prayer to be broadcast throughout a whole city, right? That could be a reasonable restriction on, regardless of whether it's religious or not, just sound ordinances, okay? maybe, again, it's like though we're so incredibly far away from any sort of Islamic takeover where people who aren't Muslim are forced to put their children in burqas. It's just like not a thing. And while I wouldn't dispute that there is a portion of the Islamic world that has that as some sort of end goal in mind, I just can't accept that as some sort of reason to blanketly demonize all Muslim people or declare them all unfit for office. I would be perfectly happy to screen out of coming into our country any radical Islamist, anyone who wants Sharia law, anyone who wants to impose dress codes on women, any of this sorts of thing. But I'll never be on board with collectively demonizing entire groups of people and stripping them of their individuality. And there's a sizable percentage of people of the Muslim faith who aren't any of those things. And to just blanketly discriminate against them like this is, to me, wrong. And then it's so incredibly deeply hypocritical when you have styled yourself in your career as somebody who cares about and fights for the First Amendment, who stands on business for religious liberty, and who wants to uphold the Constitution, despite the Constitution having an extremely clear provision prohibiting any sort of religious test for public office. So Nancy Mace just sounds bigoted and extreme here. And I think I suspect this got her the attention she sought. But other than that, I'm not sure what this saga accomplished at all. That's just my take on the situation. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't yet. I call out the far left and the far right, and that's not always the best business model. So I do need support from viewers like you. Hit the join button or click the link in the description to become a channel member now if you're able to support my work. And with that, guys, we'll leave it there for now and be back with more real soon.